Stop. Just stop for a moment. Take a breath. And listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you may change the way you look at your own mind. You think your thoughts are private, silent, invisible, just little sentences passing through your head. But what if they are doing much more than that? What if every thought you repeat is teaching your mind what kind of reality to look for? And what if the reason you keep seeing the same patterns, the same fears, the same disappointments, is not because you are cursed, unlucky, or stuck forever? What if something inside you has simply been running the same signal for too long? You were not brought here by accident. You are ready. And right now, something is shifting in the way you see yourself. Maybe you have felt it recently. A strange distance from people you once felt close to. A sudden desire to leave behind an old version of yourself. A feeling that something is coming, even though you cannot explain what it is. Maybe one door closed in your life, and you kept asking, why? Why did that relationship change? Why did that opportunity disappear? Why do I feel lost when I thought I knew where I was going? But here's what no one tells you. A closed door does not always mean rejection. Sometimes it means your mind is finally becoming too large for the room you were standing in. You are entering a new threshold. And this is where the idea of the quantum mind becomes interesting. Think about a radio. The air around you can carry countless signals at the same time, but your radio only plays the frequency it is tuned to. Your mind can work in a similar way. You may be surrounded by opportunities, new people, new ideas, and possibilities. But if your inner signal keeps saying, nothing ever works for me, you may notice every reason why something will fail. If your mind keeps saying, I am not ready, you may ignore the moment that was actually meant for you. And if you keep telling yourself, my life will always be this way, your attention begins searching for proof. This does not mean you can simply think of $1 million and expect it to fall from the sky. No, it means something deeper. Your thoughts influence what you notice. What you notice influences what you choose. What you choose influences what you repeat. And what you repeat can slowly become the life you recognize as normal. That is the part one wants you to remember. Your reality often follows the direction of your attention. Now imagine something with me. Far beyond a busy city, beyond the noise of phones and traffic, there is an ancient library hidden beneath a desert of golden sand. Inside that library are thousands of rooms. Each room holds a different frequency. One room feels like fear. Another feels like courage. One holds memories of loss. Another holds the possibility of beginning again. And at the center of this impossible library stands a young woman named Izara. She has been walking through the desert for 3 days. Her feet are tired. Her clothes are covered in dust. And in her hand, she holds a small silver key she found beside a dying tree. She does not know what the key opens. But she has followed one strange message across the desert. When you stop searching outside yourself, the gate will appear. Izara reaches the library just as the sun disappears. There is no door, no handle, nothing but a massive wall of black stone. She looks at the silver key in her hand. Then she whispers, I came all this way, and there's nothing here. For a moment, nothing happens. Then she closes her eyes. She remembers every time someone told her she was not enough. Every opportunity she was afraid to take. Every person she lost. Every night she sat alone wondering whether her life would ever change. And then something strange happens. The wall begins to glow. Not because she touched it, but because her breathing changed. Izara opens her eyes. A thin golden line appears across the stone. Then another. Then hundreds. The wall is covered in glowing patterns that look almost like moving waves. And a voice comes from somewhere inside the darkness. You have been waiting for the door. Izara freezes. The voice continues. But the door has been waiting for your decision. She looks down at the silver key. And suddenly, she understands why she had to walk so far. The key was never the answer. It was only a reminder. She had been waiting for something outside herself to give her permission to change. Just like you may have been waiting. Waiting for the perfect day, the perfect person, the perfect sign, the perfect moment to finally become who you know you can be. But what if the threshold has already appeared? What if you are standing closer to it than you realize? And what happens when you stop asking, when will my life change? And begin asking, what must change inside me first? That's where the real transmission begins. And what Izara discovers behind that glowing door will reveal why some thoughts keep pulling you backward, while others can completely change the direction of your life. But before we go there, take one slow breath and say quietly to yourself, I am ready for the reality I am becoming. Don't rush past that sentence, because the next step is where the old version of you begins to lose its grip. The golden door opens without a sound. Izara takes one step forward, then another. Behind her is the desert she crossed. Ahead of her is a darkness so deep that she cannot see the floor. She looks back. The desert is already disappearing. Not slowly. Not gently. It is simply gone. Izara's breathing becomes faster. What happened? She whispers. The voice answers from somewhere ahead. Nothing happened to your past. You simply stopped carrying it. She turns toward the voice. And then the darkness begins to change. Tiny points of light appear around her, like stars scattered across an endless black sky. One light becomes 10. 10 become hundreds. Soon, she is standing inside what looks like a massive city floating in space. Golden towers rise in the distance. Streams of light move between them. Above her, strange waves of energy travel across the sky like invisible music made visible. Izara slowly walks forward. What is this place? The field. The quantum field? That is one name for it. She looks around. What am I supposed to do here? The voice becomes quieter. Nothing. Izara frowns. Nothing. You have spent your entire life trying to force reality to change. Now you will learn how to change the signal you send into it. That sentence stops her. Because deep inside, she knows exactly what the voice means. She remembers all the times she had said, I have to make this work. I cannot lose this person. I need this opportunity. I must prove myself. Every time she tried to control the outcome, fear had been hiding underneath the words. And fear had become the frequency she kept returning to. Now the city around her begins to respond. One of the golden towers suddenly goes dark. Then another. Then another. Izara watches in confusion. Why are the lights disappearing? The voice answers. Because you are thinking about what you fear losing. She closes her eyes. Immediately, another tower disappears. She thinks about failure. Another light goes out. She thinks about rejection. Another. She thinks about being alone. Another. Soon, half the city is dark. Izara opens her eyes, shocked. Stop. The voice says nothing. She looks at the empty spaces where the lights had been. Then she whispers, What am I supposed to think about? And this time, the voice does not answer immediately. Instead, a small golden light appears directly in front of her. It is no bigger than a candle flame. Izara reaches toward it. The moment her fingers come close, she sees something. Not the future. Her own life. But from a different angle. She sees herself standing at an old doorway, afraid to enter. She sees herself watching an opportunity disappear because she was convinced she would fail. She sees herself walking away from people who cared about her because she believed she was not worthy of staying. Then she sees another version of herself. Same face. Same memories. But different posture. Different eyes. This version walks toward the door, even while afraid, even while uncertain. She does not wait until fear disappears. She moves anyway. Izara stares at the image. Who is she? The voice replies. You. She shakes her head. No, that's not me. Not yet. Those two words hit harder than anything else. Not yet. Because suddenly, Izara realizes something. The future does not always begin with a giant event. Sometimes it begins with a tiny decision nobody else notices. One thought. One choice. One moment where you refuse to repeat the same pattern. And maybe that is happening to you right now. Maybe you have been waiting for some huge sign, but your sign may be much smaller. Maybe it is the moment you stop speaking to yourself like an enemy. Maybe it is the moment you stop chasing someone who keeps choosing to leave. Maybe it is the moment you finally admit that the life you had planned is no longer the life you want. Maybe it is the moment you say, I don't know what comes next, but I know I cannot keep going backward. That is where the shift begins. Not because the universe suddenly becomes your servant, Not because every thought magically creates an event, but because your inner world changes what you notice, what you believe is possible, and what you are willing to do. And when those things change, your choices change, your habits change, your direction changes. Then one day, you look around and realize your life changed because you changed the person making the decisions. But Izara has not finished her journey. The city suddenly begins to shake. The golden towers flicker. A deep sound rolls through the sky. Then every light disappears. Total darkness. Izara cannot see her own hands. What's happening? For the first time, the voice sounds urgent. The old signal has found you. Izara's heart pounds. What old signal? A single red light appears far across the city. Then another. Then hundreds. They begin moving toward her. Slowly. Then faster. The voice whispers, whatever you have refused to face will always try to return. Izara takes a step backward. The red lights come closer. And suddenly she hears voices. Voices from her past. People telling her she was too late. People telling her she was not special. People telling her to stay where she was. Izara covers her ears. But the voices become louder. Then she remembers the golden version of herself. The one who walked toward the door. She takes a deep breath. And instead of running, she turns toward the darkness. I hear you, she says. The voices become silent. Izara takes another step. But I don't belong to you anymore. Everything stops. The red lights freeze. And the entire city begins filling with gold again. Because here is the truth. You do not change your life by fighting your old identity. You change it by refusing to obey it. And just when Izara thinks she has passed the test, a massive doorway appears at the end of the city. Above it are 3 words. Your thoughts matter. Izara walks toward it. But before she can reach the handle, the door opens by itself. And behind it is something she never expected to see. Someone is already waiting for her. Izara stops. Someone is standing on the other side of the doorway. A woman, older than Izara, but somehow familiar. She is dressed in a simple white robe, and around her head is a soft golden halo that moves like light floating on water. Izara does not speak. The woman does not speak either. She simply looks at her. Then she smiles. You finally made it. Izara's face changes. Do I know you? The woman slowly turns toward a huge window behind her. Beyond the glass is the golden city. But now Izara sees something she could not see before. Every building. Every road. Every glowing tower. They are connected by thin streams of light. And those streams are moving. Responding. Changing direction. Following something. What am I looking at? Izara asks. The woman answers. Your attention. Izara looks closer. One stream becomes brighter. It moves toward a building. Another fades. A third changes direction completely. What controls them? The woman turns back. You do. Izara steps away. No, I don't. Then watch. The woman raises one hand. The entire city becomes dark. Izara's heart drops. Then the woman points toward a single tower. Think of something you fear. Izara hesitates. But she does. She thinks about losing the person she loves. The tower begins to flicker. Now think about failure. Another tower dims. Now think about being alone. More lights disappear. Izara looks frightened. Stop. The woman lowers her hand. The lights return. Izara stares at the city. So my thoughts create everything? The woman shakes her head. No. Izara looks confused. Then what is this? Your thoughts do not control reality like magic. She walks closer. They influence the reality you experience by shaping what you notice, what you expect, what you believe, and what you choose. Izara looks down. So I've been doing this to myself. No. The woman's voice becomes softer. You have been surviving with the tools you were given. That sentence breaks something inside Izara. She remembers being younger, trying to make everyone happy, trying not to disappoint anyone, learning to stay quiet when she was hurt, learning to expect rejection before anyone could reject her, learning to leave first, so she would not be left. A tear rolls down her face. I thought something was wrong with me. The woman walks toward her. There was never something wrong with you. She pauses. You simply practiced fear for so long that fear became familiar. Izara wipes her face. And how do I change it? The woman points toward the center of the city. By changing what you repeatedly tell yourself is possible. Now listen carefully, because this is where the message becomes personal for you. You may have spent years repeating things you never consciously chose. I'm unlucky. I'm not good enough. People always leave. I never finish anything. I'll never have the life I want. At first, those thoughts feel like observations. But repeated thoughts can become expectations. Expectations can shape behavior. Behavior can become habits. And habits can create patterns. Then those patterns begin looking like destiny. That's the trap. You start believing, this is just who I am. But what if it isn't? What if it is simply who you have practiced being? The woman gives Izara a small glass sphere. Inside it is a tiny moving light. What is this? Izara asks. Your next thought. Izara laughs softly. That's impossible. Then test it. She closes her eyes. For several seconds, nothing happens. Then she notices the first thought that appears. What if I fail? The light inside the sphere turns gray. The woman says nothing. Izara tries again. What if I succeed? The light becomes brighter. But the woman still does not react. Izara becomes frustrated. Why isn't it changing? Because you don't believe the second thought. Silence. That hurts. Because Izara knows it is true. She has been saying positive words, while secretly expecting disappointment. She has been asking for a new life, while still protecting the old one. And maybe you have done the same. You say you want peace, but keep replaying old arguments. You say you want love, but keep expecting people to hurt you. You say you want success, but keep telling yourself you are not ready. You say you want change, but secretly fear who you will become when change finally arrives. Here's what no one tells you. You do not need to force yourself to believe some huge dream overnight. Start smaller. Instead of saying, my entire life will become perfect, say, I am capable of making one better choice today. Instead of, nothing can hurt me, say, I can handle what comes next. Instead of, I know exactly where my life is going. Say, I trust myself to take the next step. That is believable. And believable thoughts are easier to repeat. Repeated thoughts become stronger signals. Stronger signals influence your attention. And attention changes what you see. Izara looks at the woman. So the first change happens inside? The woman smiles. The first change always begins somewhere. Suddenly, the glass sphere in Izara's hand cracks. She looks down. A thin line runs across it. Then another. The woman becomes completely still. What happened? Izara asks. The woman looks toward the city. I was hoping that would not happen yet. The golden lights begin flickering again. But this time, they are not turning red. They are turning blue. Hundreds of blue lights rise from the city and gather above Izara. Then they form a massive symbol in the sky. Izara stares at it. What does that mean? The woman whispers. It means your mind has reached the threshold. The threshold of what? The woman looks directly into her eyes. Choice. And suddenly, Izara hears something behind her. A voice. Her own voice. But older. Stronger. And terrified. It says, don't open the next door. Izara turns around. There is another door behind her. One that was not there before. And written across it are 4 words. The thought you fear most. Izara's hand slowly reaches toward the handle. But before she touches it, the woman says something that makes her stop. Once you open that door, you will discover why your reality keeps repeating the same lesson. Izara looks back. Then I need to open it. The woman nods. But you must understand. Her voice drops to a whisper. Whatever you find inside will not be a monster. Izara waits. It will be you. And the handle begins to turn. The handle turns. Slowly. Izara's fingers tighten around it. For a moment, she does not open the door. She simply stands there, listening to her own heartbeat. Then she remembers the woman's words. Whatever you find inside will not be a monster. It will be you. Izara closes her eyes. I am ready. The door opens. There is no darkness behind it. No creature. No ancient secret. No glowing treasure. There is only a small room. And in the middle of that room is a chair. Someone is sitting in it. Izara takes one step forward. Then she stops. Because the person sitting in the chair is her, not the version she saw before. This Izara looks exhausted. Her shoulders are bent. Her eyes are filled with doubt. She is holding dozens of pieces of paper. Each paper has a sentence written on it. I always ruin things. I'm not enough. People leave me. I have to prove myself. I'll probably fail. I should have done better. I am too late. Izara stares at the papers. I said those things. The other Izara looks up. You still do. The words hit her like a cold wave. No, I don't. You do. The older version of herself stands. You just say them more quietly now. Izara looks away. She knows. Because sometimes the loudest thoughts are not the ones we speak. They are the ones we whisper to ourselves when nobody is listening. The other Izara walks closer. You think your problem is that reality does not give you what you want. She drops the papers to the floor. But your real problem is that you keep asking reality to prove that your fears are true. Izara's eyes fill with tears. I don't want to live like this. Then stop rehearsing the life you don't want. Silence. That sentence stays in the room. Stop rehearsing the life you don't want. Izara looks at the papers again. And something strange happens. One by one. The words begin disappearing. Not because someone removes them. Because Izara stops agreeing with them. I am not a failure. One paper fades. I am not behind. Another disappears. I do not need everyone to choose me. Another. I can survive rejection. Another. I can begin again. Another. The room becomes brighter. Then Izara notices one final paper. It is larger than the others. She picks it up. Only 4 words are written on it. What if I succeed? Izara stares at it. Her hands begin shaking. The other Izara smiles sadly. That's the thought you've been avoiding. Why would I avoid that? Because success changes your identity. Izara looks confused. What does that mean? It means you know how to survive disappointment. She points toward the papers. You know how to prepare for failure. You know how to expect people to leave. You know how to protect yourself. She steps closer. But you don't know who you become when things finally work. Izara says nothing. And suddenly, the room feels much bigger. Because that fear is not about failure anymore. It is about possibility. What if you actually succeed? What if the dream you stopped believing in actually happens? What if the person you are becoming no longer fits the life you built around your old identity? What if you become confident? What if you stop chasing approval? What if you stop begging closed doors to open? What if you finally walk away from what keeps hurting you? Sometimes people are not only afraid of losing. They are afraid of becoming someone who no longer needs what they once lost. Izara looks at the final paper. Then she tears it in half. The room goes completely silent. The other Izara disappears. The chair disappears. The walls disappear. And Izara is suddenly standing beneath a sky filled with millions of stars. A golden path appears in front of her. At the end of it is a massive city of light. But this time, she does not ask what it is. She starts walking. Step by step. The path becomes brighter. And with every step, she notices something. The city is changing. Buildings move. Roads appear. Doors open. Some disappear. It is as if the entire place is responding to her direction. Then the woman appears beside her. You understand now. Izara nods. My thoughts don't magically control everything. No. But they can change what I notice. Yes. What I expect. Yes. What I choose. Yes. And what I repeatedly become. The woman smiles. Now you understand. Izara looks at the city. So what happens when I change? The woman points toward the horizon. Your environment may not change immediately. Izara waits. People may not understand. She continues walking. Old opportunities may disappear. Another step. Some relationships may end. Another. You may even feel more alone for a while. Izara looks worried. Then how is that better? The woman turns toward her. Because sometimes the silence after an old life ends as the space where a new life begins. That sentence settles deep inside Izara. And maybe it needs to settle inside you too. Because if you are going through a transition right now, if people are changing, if your plans are falling apart, if something you wanted is moving away from you, don't immediately assume your life is getting worse. Sometimes the old structure has to loosen before you can build something stronger. A closed door can be protection. A delay can be preparation. A loss can expose what you were depending on too heavily. And uncertainty can be the beginning of a completely different identity. Izara reaches the edge of the city. There is one final gate. It is enormous. Above it are the words, "Your reality follows your direction." She places her hand against the gate. Nothing happens. She pushes harder. Still nothing. She looks at the woman. "Why won't it open?" The woman smiles. "You are still trying to force it." Izara steps back. She takes a breath. Then she stops pushing. She stops demanding. She stops asking when. Instead, she closes her eyes and says, "I don't know exactly what is behind this door." A pause. "But I trust myself to meet it." The gate opens. Instantly, a wave of golden light moves through the city. The woman steps backward. Izara looks at her. "You're not coming?" The woman shakes her head. "You don't need me anymore." Izara turns toward the open gate. Then she hears the woman's final words. "Remember this. The moment you stop asking life to prove you are worthy, you become free to build a life that reflects who you are." Izara walks through. And for the first time, there is no voice telling her where to go. No map. No instructions. No promise. Only possibility. And that is where the real test begins. Because it is easy to change your thoughts inside a magical city. The harder question is, can you carry that new signal back into ordinary life? Can you think differently when someone disappoints you? Can you stay calm when something goes wrong? Can you choose yourself when an old pattern tries to pull you back? Can you hold on to hope when you cannot see the result yet? That is the moment where a thought becomes a choice. A choice becomes an action. And an action begins becoming a new reality. But Izara is about to discover something even stranger. Because when she finally steps through the gate, she does not find the future. She finds the past. And waiting there is the one moment she has spent her entire life trying to forget. Izara steps through the gate, and everything disappears. The golden city. The glowing towers. The endless sky. Even the woman behind her. There is only silence. Then, a sound. A child's laughter. Izara freezes. She knows that voice. She slowly turns around. And suddenly she is standing in a small house she has not seen in years. The walls are the same. The old wooden table is still near the window. A small blue cup sits on the floor. And in the corner, a little girl is drawing something with a broken pencil. Izara's breath catches. It is her. Her younger self. Maybe 8 years old. The little girl looks happy, until a door suddenly slams. The smile disappears from her face. She quickly hides the drawing beneath the table. Izara watches silently. An older voice comes from another room. "Stop dreaming about things you can't have." The little girl lowers her head. Izara feels something inside her tighten. She remembers. She remembers this moment. She had forgotten the exact words. But she remembered the feeling. The feeling that wanting too much was dangerous. The feeling that dreaming too big only gave people another reason to disappoint you. The little girl slowly takes out her drawing again. It shows a huge golden city. Tall towers. A bright sky. And a tiny figure standing at the entrance. Izara walks closer. "You drew this?" The child looks up. But she does not seem surprised to see her. "Yes." "What is it?" "My future." Izara's eyes fill with tears. "You still believe in it?" The little girl looks confused. "Why wouldn't I?" Izara kneels beside her. "Because people will tell you that you can't." The child shrugs. "Then I'll stop listening." Izara smiles through her tears. "You won't always remember that." The little girl studies her face, then asks, "Did we forget?" Izara cannot answer. The child looks down at the drawing. "You forgot who we were." Those words cut deeper than anything the woman in the city had said. Because suddenly Izara understands. She did not lose her dreams. She buried them. Under fear. under disappointment, under other people's expectations, under every thought that told her to be realistic. She had not stopped imagining a better life because she became wiser. She had stopped because she became afraid of being disappointed again. And maybe that is true for you too. Maybe there was a version of you who once believed anything was possible. Before rejection, before failure, before someone laughed at your dream, before someone told you that you were not talented enough, before life taught you to expect less. You didn't lose that person. You simply learned to hide them. The little Izara reaches under the table and pulls out another drawing. This one is different. It shows the same golden city, but the gate is closed. Why is this one closed? Izara asks. The child looks at her. Because I was waiting for someone to open it. Izara becomes still. Who? The little girl points toward Izara. You. A deep silence fills the room. Then the house begins changing. The walls fade. The furniture disappears. The drawings rise into the air. Hundreds of them. 1,000. Every drawing shows a different version of Izara's life. In one, she is standing on a stage. In another, she is helping people. In another, she is traveling across mountains. In another, she is sitting alone beside an ocean. Different lives. Different choices. Different realities. Izara looks around in wonder. Are these all possible? A familiar voice answers behind her. Possibilities are not promises. The woman is back. Izara turns. Then what are they? Directions. The woman walks between the floating drawings. Every day, you strengthen some possibilities and weaken others. With my thoughts. With your thoughts, choices, attention, habits, and actions. She points toward one drawing. It shows Izara standing alone in darkness. This path begins with fear. Another. Izara is surrounded by people, but her face is empty. This one begins with approval. Another. Izara is walking toward the golden city. This one begins with courage. Izara looks carefully. What is the difference? The woman smiles. The first step. Izara understands. The future is not something waiting in one fixed place. It is shaped by the direction she keeps choosing. And that changes everything. Because it means you do not need to know every step. You only need to choose the next one. You don't need to know exactly how your life will turn out. You need to decide what kind of person you are practicing becoming. You don't need to eliminate every fear. You need to stop letting fear make every decision. That is the real shift. Not magical thinking. Not pretending problems don't exist. Not repeating empty words while doing nothing. Real change begins when your inner story and your outer actions start moving in the same direction. The woman reaches into her robe and takes out a small golden thread. She places it in Izara's hand. What is this? Your attention. Izara looks at the thread. It looks fragile. It is. What happens if I drop it? Nothing. Izara looks confused. Then why does it matter? Because whatever you keep returning your attention to becomes easier to follow. Izara looks at the golden city, then at the darkness behind it. She finally understands. You can focus on everything that went wrong, or you can notice what you can still build. You can keep replaying the person who left, or notice the people who stayed. You can keep counting the times you failed, or study what those failures taught you. You can stare at the closed door, or look for another path. The pain may still be real. The loss may still matter. But your attention does not have to remain trapped there. Izara wraps the golden thread around her wrist. What happens now? The woman smiles. Now you go home. Home. Back to the ordinary world. Izara looks toward the city one last time. And will I remember all of this? The woman shakes her head. Not everything. Then how will I know it was real? You won't. Izara looks worried. The woman steps closer. But you will notice something. What? You will begin catching your thoughts before they become your decisions. Izara looks at the golden thread around her wrist. And when I do, choose again. The room begins to fade. The golden city disappears. The woman disappears. The little girl disappears. And Izara suddenly wakes up, back in the desert. The sun is rising. Her clothes are covered in dust. Her hand is empty. No key. No golden thread. No city. Nothing. For a moment, She wonders if she imagined everything. Then she looks toward the horizon, and something catches her eye. A tiny golden light, moving across the sand. She stands. And for the first time in years, she smiles without needing a reason. Because she knows something now. Her life may not change in one morning, but she can change what she does with this morning. She can change what she repeats. She can change what she believes is possible. She can change what she chooses next. And so can you. So take a breath. And notice the thought that has been controlling you lately. Maybe it's, I'm too late. I'm not enough. I'll never get there. I always mess things up. Now don't fight it. Just notice it. And ask yourself, is this actually the truth? Or is it simply a thought I have repeated so many times that it feels like truth? Because there is a difference. A thought can be familiar without being true. And sometimes, the first sign that your reality is changing is not something outside you. It is the moment you stop believing every thought that enters your mind. You are not every thought you think. You are the one who gets to choose which thought becomes your direction. Izara begins walking toward the horizon. One step, then another. And somewhere far behind her, the ancient library closes its doors. Not forever. Only until the next person is ready. But before those doors disappear completely, one final message appears across the stone. Not for Izara. For you. The mind is the gate. Your repeated choices are the key. And now, there is one final question. If your thoughts help shape what you notice, if what you notice shapes what you choose, and what you choose shapes what you repeatedly become, then what would happen if you changed the way you spoke to yourself for the next 7 days? What would you notice? What would you stop chasing? What would you finally begin? Because that experiment is where your story becomes real. For the next 7 days, do something very simple, but do it seriously. Every morning, before you touch your phone, before you check messages, before the noise of the world enters your mind, sit quietly for a moment. Take one slow breath and ask yourself, what am I teaching my mind to believe today? Don't force a perfect answer. Just listen. Maybe the first thing you hear is fear. I'm behind. I'm not ready. What if everything goes wrong? Don't fight it. Notice it. Then ask one more question. What would I choose if I didn't let this thought make the decision for me? That question can change more than you realize. Because your mind will always produce thoughts. Some will be helpful. Some will be old fears wearing familiar clothes. Some will come from your past. Some will come from things other people said about you. And some will simply be noise. You don't have to obey every thought. You don't have to turn every fear into a prediction. You don't have to treat every doubt like a prophecy. A thought is an event inside your mind, not a command. Remember that. A thought is an event, not a command. And once you understand that, you begin to create space between what you think and what you do. That space is powerful, because inside that space, you can choose. You can pause before reacting. You can breathe before answering. You can walk away instead of repeating an old argument. You can apply for the opportunity even while feeling nervous. You can start again after failing. You can stop begging someone to recognize your value. You can finally give yourself permission to become someone new. This is where the quantum mind becomes more than a mysterious phrase. It becomes a way of looking at your life. Your attention is not everything. Your thoughts are not magic spells. Reality has circumstances you cannot control. People have their own choices. Life will still surprise you. Some things will still hurt. Some doors will still close. But your inner world influences how you meet those moments. And how you meet those moments can change the direction of your life. Think about Izara. She thought the library would give her the future. Instead, it gave her something more valuable. A different relationship with her own mind. She walked into that place believing she needed a sign. She walked out understanding that she needed a choice. And maybe that's why this message found you at this exact moment. Not because you are magically protected from every problem, but because you may be ready to stop giving your old thoughts unlimited authority. Maybe you've been waiting for life to tell you. You are ready. So let me tell you now. You are ready to take the next step. Not every step. The next one. You don't need to know how everything will work out. You don't need the entire map. You don't need everyone to understand your decision. You don't even need to feel completely confident. You only need enough courage to move while uncertainty is still standing beside you. Because confidence often comes after action, not before it. You move. Then you discover you were capable. You try. Then you discover you could survive the possibility of failure. You release. Then you discover your hands have space to receive something new. You stop chasing. Then you notice what was already walking toward you. And this is the part one want you to remember when the old thoughts return. They will return. One difficult morning does not mean you have gone backward. One bad day does not erase your progress. One rejection does not define your future. One mistake does not become your identity unless you keep turning it into one. So when the old voice says, "You always do this," answer, "Not today." When it says, "You are not enough," answer, "I am still growing." When it says, "You are too late," answer, "I am here now." When it says, "Nothing will change," answer, "I can change what I choose next." Say it again. I can change what I choose next. Because that is where your power lives. Not in controlling everything. Not in pretending pain doesn't exist. Not in forcing the universe to give you exactly what you want. Your power lives in the choices you can still make. Your attention. Your response. Your habits. Your actions. Your willingness to begin again. And if you want to make this personal, do something right now. Take a deep breath. And repeat this slowly. I release the thoughts that keep me small. Pause. I choose thoughts that support the person I am becoming. Pause. I do not need to know everything. Pause. I only need to take the next step. And one more time, I am ready. Not because everything is perfect. Not because you know exactly what happens next. But because you are no longer waiting for fear to disappear before you live. That is different. That is growth. That is the threshold. And maybe tomorrow something unexpected will happen. Maybe someone will contact you. Maybe an opportunity will appear. Maybe a door you thought was permanently closed will open again. Or maybe nothing dramatic will happen at all. Maybe you will simply wake up, make a different choice, speak to yourself differently, and go to sleep knowing you did not abandon yourself today. Don't underestimate that. A new reality can begin quietly. No fireworks. No announcement. No one clapping. Just you. Making one different choice when nobody is watching. Then another. Then another. Until one day you look back and realize the life you wanted did not appear all at once. You built it through thousands of tiny decisions. And that is why your thoughts matter. Not because every thought instantly creates an event, but because the thoughts you repeatedly believe can shape the person making those decisions. And the person making the decisions shapes the direction of the journey. So if your life feels uncertain right now, don't panic. You may simply be standing between identities. The old version of you is asking you to return. The new version is asking you to continue. One is familiar. The other is unknown. Choose carefully. Because the familiar path can feel safe, even when it is slowly taking you away from yourself. And the unknown path can feel frightening, even when it is leading you exactly where you need to go. This is the final lesson Izara carried from the desert. She never received a promise that life would become easy. She received something better. She learned that she could meet life differently. And maybe that is the message you needed too. You are not trapped inside every story you have told yourself. You are not required to remain the person you became during your hardest season. You are allowed to change. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to choose peace. You are allowed to start again. You are allowed to imagine something better without knowing exactly how you will reach it. And most importantly, you are allowed to think a new thought. Because sometimes, one new thought becomes one new choice. One new choice becomes one new habit. One new habit becomes a new direction. And one new direction can become a completely different life. Your future does not need permission from your past. Remember that. When the door closes, breathe. When someone leaves, breathe. When you fail, breathe. When you feel lost, breathe. Then ask, what is my next choice? Not, why is this happening to me? Not, when will everything finally change? But, what can I choose now? That question brings you back to yourself. And if this message reached you at a moment when you needed it, don't just listen and forget it. Write one sentence in the comments. I choose my next reality. Let that be your reminder. And if you know someone who has been trapped inside an old version of themselves, send this to them. Maybe they don't need another lecture. Maybe they just need one reminder that their story is not finished. Because yours isn't finished either. Not even close. The old door can close. The old identity can fall away. The old frequency can become quiet. And somewhere beyond that threshold, there is still a version of you waiting. Not perfect. Not fearless. Not untouched by life. Just stronger. Wiser. More awake. And finally willing to choose. So take one last breath. Look at the road ahead. And remember what Izara discovered in the City of Light. The gate was never waiting for the perfect person. It was waiting for the person who was finally willing to walk through. Maybe that person is you.